Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans, promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property. The news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. There's so much to cover, so little time. Let's talk about this. Behind the scenes, Trump questions DOJ direction under Pam Bondi. Oh, boy. Yeah, privately, he's speaking out, going, man, I'm frustrated with her. You too, huh, Donald? Wow, we've been all frustrated with her from the very start. I told you she wasn't the one to hire, but of course you didn't listen to me, your self-appointed Trump advisor. See, I'm self-appointed. Nobody really put me there, but hey, I'm taking the opportunity. Why? Because he's my president, so I have every right to be his advisor, right? Self-appointed, or maybe the fact that he's elected makes him I can provide my guidance for him. Reports indicate that President Trump has privately shared concerns with advisors about the pace and effectiveness of the Justice Department under Pam Bondi. That's kind of interesting, you know? Particularly around, listen, high-profile priorities. Yeah. Publicly, Trump and senior officials continue to express confidence in Bondi, but the private conversations are different. Now, here's what I really want to say about this. Most people are going to be like, yeah, Pam Bondi's gone, Trump, whatever, and others are saying, no, he's, publicly defending her. And here's my problem with Trump. Half the people that he complains about, listen to me carefully, half the people that he complains about are people he used to promote big time, right? Think of Greene. I mean, she was the rock star of the Donald Trump MAGA movement. Now she's the enemy, right? Think about Elon Musk. Same story. He was the rock star. Then he was the bad guy. Now he might be, a partial rock star once again, right? In Trump's mind. Well, think about this now. The Federal Reserve chairman. I mean, Trump's the guy that put that one in place, right? Now Trump says, oh, that guy's a bad guy. Yeah, I don't really understand that, right? But that's what we see. Now we've got the Federal Reserve chairman on the outs with Trump, but hey, that's the one Trump recommended in 2017. Think about Pam Bondi. Now Pam Bondi's on the outs, but Pam Bondi is the one Donald Trump picked. I was saying that we need to pick Mark Lamb to be the Attorney General. Or Mark Lamb to be the, there's several roles people could play. The leader of the FBI. Now we put Dan Bongino in and he finally walked and said, oh man, I can't take it anymore. This is crazy. So I appreciate President Trump, but half the people that he complains about are people that he picked and he put in place in the first place against better judgment from conservatives. Right? That's the problem, right? And you got to ask yourself, who controls President Trump's decision-making? Is it American people that have constitutional experience, such as myself, Dr. Scott Bradley, CSPOA leader, Sheriff Richard Mack, maybe Judge Roy Moore, maybe Mike Lee, maybe Thomas Massey, maybe Greene. I mean, I can think of a lot of people, Judge Andrew Napolitano, Ron Paul, Rand Paul. I mean, there's a lot of good people that Trump could be taking advice from. But as far as I understand, he doesn't really take advice from us. He has a very closed ranks led by Susie Wiles and company. I don't think Susie understands the Constitution. I don't think Susie has the same focus in mind that we would. I'm not here to attack Susie, right? But I'm just saying that I don't really see that Trump is surrounded by the right people. I think that's his big problem. And so he keeps putting clowns in place, and then he gets mad because, oh my gosh, they're not doing what he wants. Just take Mike Johnson, for example. Trump backed and focused on, hey, Mike Johnson. But the problem with Mike Johnson is he hasn't done anything the president's really wanted to. Oh, he's talked a good game. He's made you feel like, because he's a master at politics, he's made you feel like, oh, we're trying to do Trump's will, but we just can't. The Democrats are too strong. The Republicans are, oh, we don't need to bring that up. And he's played gatekeeper, and he's really prevented Congress from backing a lot of what Trump's done that is great and good and honorable. So I'm not downing Trump, but the deep state got him the first go round, and he virtually admitted to that and went, wow. But this second go round, I say the deep state's deeper than ever. They're going for broke now. And so Trump is starting to step in it all over the place, internationally and otherwise. I mean, which country don't we have some kind of a battle with right now, verbally or otherwise? It's very strange. And I don't like it domestically. You know, everybody that we, quote, put in place, got to have this person, got to have that person. What about Kash Patel? You know, we're expecting him to be the rock star, to go ahead and get it done, to start these investigations, to truly have due process of law, transparency, accountability, innocent until proven guilty. But if you prove guilt, take it to the fullest extent of the law and prosecute and get it done. Okay, we haven't seen any of that from Kash Patel. I actually endorsed Kash Patel in hopes that it would make a difference. Sadly, I was mistaken. I'm not here to attack Kash Patel, but I am here to say the swamp must be too deep for him to get it done, and he's a great guy still. Or there's something else wrong. Don't know what. But in either case, what I had hoped would happen isn't happening. Whether it's Pam Bondi, whether it's Kash Patel, Dan Bongino couldn't take it and finally bailed. Greene couldn't take it, finally bailed. Massey's now under relentless attack for what really reason? I don't know. I mean, Trump was for the release of the Epstein files, and so was Massey, until Trump betrayed all of us on that. And then when we kind of caught him at betraying all of us on that, because he reversed and said he wasn't for releasing the Trump files, he basically gaslighted all of us and said, there's no list, there's nothing there, da-da-da-da-da. Well, Trump really got his hand caught in the cookie jar on that one, because the American people went, what? You're off your rock. And they stood for transparency. And then Trump finally came back around and said, okay, I'm for the release of the Epstein files. The question is, Thomas Massey stood true all along. Thomas Massey wants a peaceful, humble foreign policy. You know, Trump doesn't do well for himself around the world to say, we want to buy Greenland, but if we can't buy it, we're just going to take it by force. That's the worst kind of rhetoric, gaslighting, manipulation that you could possibly have. Now you can say, well, no, Sam, that's just the art of the deal, baby. I don't agree. The art of the deal doesn't need to go to threats and intimidation and force. Why didn't we come out of the gate in the first place saying, hey, we would love to be involved in Greenland, and we would love to make it the 51st state of the country. And I know Denmark owns that country right now, would be willing to pay Denmark, just like we've done for other lands that the United States. Think about the Louisiana Purchase to make the point. Okay, we can do this. We would love to. Hey, by the way, citizens of Greenland, Denmark is so far away from you. We believe we could really benefit you by you becoming the 51st state. And we realize that individuals, people in that country, 56,000 citizens of Greenland, you guys really should have self-determination. We believe in that for everybody around the world. So we'd like to pay Denmark. Would like to go ahead and invite you into the mix in a very productive way. Would you like to be the first or 51st state? Would you like to have representation? Would you like to have President Trump as your leader? Would you like to have the Constitution as your blueprint for religious and all downstream liberties? Would you like to, hey, here's what we could do for you if you become part of the United States. Here's what we can do for you, and here's what you can do for us. And you could create this working document of respect around the world. When you start with this force thing, we got to have it. We're going to do it no matter what. Now we can do this the peaceful way, or we can do it, how well does that engender faith and confidence? And if I'm a Greenlander right now, I'm going, wow, I don't really want to be militarily hostilely taken over to be the 51st state. No, I don't. That's not what I want. Right? So to me, we need to learn how to win friends and influence people a little bit. Now, I know Trump, when people get to meet him, they say he's a lot more personable, a lot more kind, a lot more thoughtful and humble and appropriate and respectful. And when you meet him, it's different. I get it. So to some degree, we might be dealing with a public persona. I get it. But at the same time, Trump announced that anybody doing any business, any nation doing business with Iran, will now face a 25% tariff on all trade with the United States. It's an increased escalation, and it relates to ongoing protests in Iran. So if you're going to do business with Iran now, you're on the outs. Is that really going to help Iran? Because what are we saying? Every nation is going to face a 25% tariff. Well, do we do any business with Iran? The move described by Trump as, quote, final and conclusive puts major local economies, or global economies, like China, India, Turkey, squarely in the camp of being on the opposite side as us. Does that make sense? We've got them squarely now in the crosshairs. It's already drawn fierce international criticism, warnings of retaliation, and more. Let's talk about this. I'm Sam Bushman. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
All right, so Trump announced that any business doing business with Iran or any country doing business with Iran, they're going to have a 25% tariff. The problem is, this is China, India, Turkey. All I'm telling you is they're all in the crosshairs now, and there's a lot of international criticism over this. And most importantly is they're talking about retaliation against the United States. Beware, ladies and gentlemen, because the BRICS currency and other countries, if they assemble, could absolutely give America real trouble. They're also saying it's raising fears of broader market turmoil. That's a big concern, folks. Big concern indeed. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that to your attention. The U.S. Department of Justice has now filed a lawsuit against the states of Connecticut and Arizona for not providing detailed voter information required for election security. These, quote, legal actions are part of a wider initiative encompassing 23 states and the District of Columbia. The Lindell Offense Fund is soliciting donations of $17.76 to support efforts to support election laws and transition to paper ballots and hand-counted elections. I couldn't support that more if I tried. Good for them. But my concern about this is this. Remember, elections are supposed to be local. Elections aren't supposed to be federal. Now, the goal from the general government is, hey, we want to help you clean up your voter rolls. I understand that, and I want accountability in elections too. But my concern is if you let the general government eventually get their foot in the door, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, baby. Don't forget that reality check, I'm telling you right now. And what will happen is eventually then the government will start to create rules and guidelines and regulations and this and that about elections. I want elections to remain state-ran, locally administered. I want precincts to return. We don't need mail-in balloting so that it goes straight to the state. We need precincts and counties and local people administering the elections. That's where you get the least amount of fraud. Remember, the government that governs best is the government that governs one least and closest to the people. I mean, God's 10 commandments, plus the 2 great commandments, 12 guidelines, and the 2 great commandments really kind of work their way through. The first, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength, kind of relates to the first 5 of the 10 commandments. And then love thy neighbor as thyself kind of relates to the second 5, right? So these 12 kind of guidelines really is the fundamental basis for a civilized, respectful, honorable, law-abiding, self-governing society. That's what we need. We don't need the gazillion commandments, right? We don't need that at all. Anyway, I digress. All right, education is so vital. And last weekend, we talked about the John Birch Society, and they have an educational opportunity that I thought was worthy of highlighting here. So we're going to play this video. And again, it's Ben Shapiro kind of leads it off. And I'm not a super fan of Ben because I believe he creates divisions. I wish he would stop that. Remember, we have a Judeo-Christian ethic in America, and we need to stick with that, right? But anyway, I don't like the divide people are inserting, and it needs to stop. Nevertheless, he's right on education. So again, I don't have to disagree with him all the time. I can disagree with him agreeably. And when he's on something I agree with, we can work together. How's that for a new motif, if you will? So hang tight. We'll watch this video and I'll come back and talk about it. Here it is.
If you've checked out what our public schools are doing lately with the kids, it's trash. I mean, they are truly indoctrinating kids in everything from CRT to radical gender theory. The garbage they are pushing is terrible. I literally wrote a book on this like 20 years ago called Brainwashed.
Vladimir Lenin once said, "Give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted." 40% of 17-year-olds do not have the math skills. 60% lack the reading skills to hold down a production job at a manufacturing company. The average college freshman is reading at a 7th grade level.
Have you seen the garbage you're pushing in some public schools? Leftist propaganda, gender bending, race baiting, DEI indoctrination. What happened to real education?
A huge percentage of today's teachers are graduating from woke universities where Marxist professors teach them they must go forth and indoctrinate your kids with their ideology.
Get your kids out of government-controlled schools. I get a ton of emails about this. It's called Freedom Project Academy.
FPA offers online learning with live, on-demand, and homeschool courses for students K through 12.
Freedom Project Academy, built on Judeo-Christian values and a classical curriculum.
Students read full books, write in cursive, study the full scope of history, you know, the way it used to be.
We as a nation can't afford to hand over another generation to the left. Take back your kids' education at Freedom Project Academy.
Go to freedomforschool.com. That's freedomforschool.com. Thank you, guys. That's a great program. I get a ton of emails and compliments about that. People love it.
You got to dig it. So there's solutions in education, ladies and gentlemen, that I just wanted to bring to your attention. There's all kinds of solutions. American Heritage Schools in Utah is one great solution as well. I know Ron Paul has his own Ron Paul curriculum. The John Birch Society through this academy has their own curriculum. There's so many opportunities to homeschool and private school and provide education in America very, very inexpensively these days. And it's something that we really need to focus on. In my opinion, if you could get your kids out of the government schools, you would do well. You know, your kids in the government schools are propagandized. You have the critical race theory that's promoted. You've got the, men think they're women and women think they're men lie, the transgender belligerents. You've got this idea that women can't be anything if they're a mother and a wife, that they've thrown their lives away. What they need to be is super career or somehow bent on, being a sex symbol or whatever else. All these lies really are perpetuated in the government school. I mean, you've got schools all over the country telling children they don't have to obey their parents, telling children we can keep secrets from your parents, telling children, and you say, oh, that's not in my schools. If you think it's not in your government public school, you're dead wrong. So there's an example, too. Now you've got this lady that's supposed to be the education czar for Donald Trump. I mean, has she really gotten rid of the Department of Education? I don't think so. All she's done really is moved sections of the Department of Education to other governmental departments. That doesn't get rid of the Department of Education. It might get rid of the name, but it keeps the same initiatives going under oftentimes more powerful, more streamlined governmental organizations. Let me give you an example. Mental health. If it's under the education department, there's only limited support you can do for that. But if you move it under the health department, you say, well, Bobby's there, RFK Jr.'s there, Sam, it's okay. It might be okay under his tenure. I agree. But when you get it then and you get some whacked out AOC or, Nancy Pelosi or, one of those ilk in charge, look the heck out, right? And so what we're doing is we're streamlining and giving the education department mandates to other government agencies and actually streamlining and making the problem, in my humble opinion, worse. Anyway, that's why I brought up the kind of this education thing, and good for them. I'm telling you, get your kids out of government school yesterday. All right, Bill Clinton's in the news, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Clinton defied a congressional subpoena to appear before the House Oversight Committee, putting him at risk of being held in contempt. Well, remember, Steve Bannon was held in contempt because he didn't appear, and they threw him in prison. So here's my question. Is former President Bill Clinton going to prison? Was Hillary asked to testify too? Did she reject or defy the congressional subpoena as well? Because she should go to jail too. We need to subpoena her to talk about the hard drives that she destroyed with bitch bleat. With bit bleach, or I think it's bleach bit. I think it's called bleach bit. Anyway, it's the software that they use to go ahead and wipe a hard drive. And then what about for the staff taking hammers to the hard drives? So we need her under that, not to mention the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. I mean, did Hillary know that Bill was involved in going on the Lolita Express with Jeffrey Epstein 26 plus times? They lied and said he only went a couple of times until people did, requests and got the goods. Then Bill said, oh, don't worry, I had chaperones on there. You really need to go places alone with some pedophile and you need chaperones? Why don't you stay home with your wife? Anyway, I digress, except to say, really, if Steve Bannon had to go to prison for this, will the Republicans have the mojo, the moxie, whatever you want to call it, that the Democrats had when they put Steve Bannon in jail? See, I don't think Steve Bannon should have gone to a congressional subpoena. I don't know that you should be forced to testify in that scenario. Remember, you have the right to remain silent, and whatever you say can and will be used against you in a court of law kind of phrasing. What about that? So, I have this problem when you force people to testify. I mean, all Bill Clinton's going to do is get up there when he testifies anyway and be like, I just can't recall. I'm just not sure. That's a good question. I've been thinking about it, and I'm racking my brain, and I can't. Okay, that's all he's going to do. So what we need to do is get the goods. We don't need him to testify. What we need to do is get the goods and what we know on Bill and Hillary and all the perpetrators. And we need to be honest with them too. We need to give them due process of law. We need to give them the opportunity to defend themselves, to face their accusers, etc. But let it all come out. And if we're going to go ahead and do real lawsuits against Bill Clinton, we need a DNA test. There's a black man running around saying he's Bill Clinton's son. Is that true? There's also women who say he literally raped me, and they have detailed stories. Where's the Me Too movement when you need them, huh? Just wondering. All right, Justice Department launches another criminal investigation. I'll get to that in seconds right after the pause. I'm Sam Bushman. You're watching the one and only hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, truth-telling Liberty RoundTable Live. All right? It's available on Rumble, YouTube, just about everywhere. Also available on lovingliberty.net. Spread the word, share the love. Hang on, more to come in seconds on Liberty RoundTable Live.
Your daily Liberty Newswire. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. To quote President Trump, help is on its way. The president addressing his remarks to anti-government protesters in Iran. Mr. Trump is ruling out any meetings with Iranian officials following reports that the regime's crackdown has killed at least 2,000 people. The president's also looking to tighten the economic screws on the mullahs.
The president said that any country that does business with Iran will be subjected to a 25% tariff rate on any business conducted with the U.S. He wrote online that the order is final, conclusive, and effective immediately. Meanwhile, the White House says the president is keeping all of his options on the table regarding Iran, including military options, as he considers how to respond to Iran's crackdown on citizen protesters. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities have gone to court trying to halt the surge of ICE officers to their jurisdictions. They're suing the Trump administration. The president heading out of town today.
He's going to give a speech at the Detroit Economic Club in addition to touring a factory in Dearborn, Michigan that produces F-150s. And my understanding is Ford is ramping up that manufacturing and also going to be hiring more American workers.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Day 2 of the New York City nurses' strike.
The strike is about getting a fair contract for staffing and also sticking to our health insurance, which is what Mount Sinai is trying to pull from us.
Mount Sinai West nurse Tristan Castillo, one of the 15,000 nurses out on the picket lines. Hospitals affected include New York Presbyterian, Montefiore, and Mount Sinai. Inflation cooled a bit more last month. Prices for gas and used cars fell, a sign that cost pressures are slowly easing. On Wall Street, stocks in negative territory this morning. The Dow down 294 points, NASDAQ off 41. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. Now that we're finally into the new year, a lot of us are thinking about taxes, home projects we've been putting off, ways to get ahead financially in 2026. Now's the perfect time to talk to my friends at Fellowship Home Loans. If you want to lower your mortgage payment, they can help you refinance. If you need access to cash for home improvements or to wipe out high-interest debt, their fixed-rate line of credit is one of the best tools out there. Fast approval, predictable rate, and flexibility to use your home's equity wisely. Remember, many people still qualify to skip their next 2 mortgage payments. Imagine starting big projects or paying down debt with 2 months of breathing room. My family and I have used Fellowship personally. I trust these guys. Take control of 2026. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. or call 800-510-MIKE. That's 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans. Mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers. DBA Fellowship Home Loans. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 819382.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began, Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman. I need to write my book, folks. When am I going to get time to write my book? You know, that's something really, really important. I want to promote a clarion call for civility turned into a campaign for civility. It's really important that I work on that, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to do that. I'm going to do that. I don't know how to free up the time, but trust me, I'm going to work on it, folks. I need to get that done big time, right? All right, so the Justice Department, as I was mentioning before the pause, launches criminal investigation of Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Of course, Powell calls it politically motivated there. The DOJ has served grand jury subpoenas on the Federal Reserve and threatens a criminal indictment connected to Powell's June testimony about the $2.5 billion renovation of the Washington headquarters. Now, Jerome Powell says, hey, this is just Trump's way to try to lower interest rates and to browbeat us into it. He says, I'm going to hold on to my job. I'm going to do what's right. And this is the problem that I have with this scenario. Again, it's a rhetoric gaslighting on both sides. You say, what do you mean, Sam? Okay, well, listen, the Federal Reserve is simply flat out unconstitutional. It's a criminal enterprise that has taken control of our money. The Constitution, the supreme law of the land, calls for gold and silver. And it says Congress has to regulate the value thereof and create honest weights and measures, and the states are only allowed to use this as legal tender. Well, they've ran it off the rails back in 1913. I've wrote a big article about this, by the way, highlighting how it's been criminally done. And because it's been repeated so often, people think it's legitimate, but it's not. Okay, it's no more federal than, Federal Express. It's a private banking cartel that's been given special privilege by Congress. You say, well, Sam, they passed the law. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Stop. It's called pretend legislation. Go look at your Declaration of Independence for guidance on this. They don't have authority to give that power away. Where in the Constitution does it say that the Congress has the authority to delegate to somebody else the power we gave to them? They don't. They can't. And they've been delegating their power to the Federal Reserve. They've been delegating their power to the courts. They've been delegating their power to the president without authority. And so the bottom line is, the reason I say this is gaslighting from both sides is Powell wants you to believe, it's about interest rates. Well, it might be. Trump might be doing that. That's true. Trump wants lower interest rates. He's made no bones about that. But what about building a $2.5 billion headquarters for the Federal Reserve? The criminal bank should be paying for it, not the taxpayers. And furthermore, both sides are acting like, the battles are about whether he lied on the stand about this new building they're building. And then Powell wants you to believe, it's about Trump trying to manipulate us over interest rates. No, we're going to remain independent. The Fed's never been independent, ladies and gentlemen. Never. You have banking cartel. That's not independent. Real independent money doesn't create a money monopoly like the Fed has done. The only source you can get money from is the Fed, and they've got us in debt, which means literally, logically, you can never get out of debt. It's bogus. Needs to stop. The truth is, the only real honest way to make it non-political is to return to the economic engine that made America the greatest country on the face of the earth. What is that? It's based on supply and demand. It's based on constitutional currency. The government has a role to be the arbitrator of contracts, the standard setter, and then to get the heck out of the way. The government shouldn't be manipulating interest rates. Let them follow supply and demand. Just like money, just like goods and services, right? And they've destroyed that. So when Trump wants to attack Powell saying he should lower interest rates, and then Trump wants to attack Powell saying he lied on the stand over this big building, who cares? It's clown show. And then Powell wants to say, Trump is just trying to lower interest rates. That's his real browbeating agenda. I'm going to stick with my job of independence. They're both lying to you. Why don't we audit Fort Knox and go in there like Trump said he was going to do? By the way, whatever happened to that promise from Trump? Let's go in and audit Fort Knox. Do we really have the gold, or have we been fleeced? They say, oh, it's been audited every year. It's safe. It's good. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Lies, lies, lies. I don't believe it for 1 second. I don't trust those clown auditors. Let's let somebody go in there and really break it down for us like we were promised. But I digress again. All I'm telling you is that I don't care if the building costs too much. We spent too much on it. We shouldn't have the building in the first place. I don't care if government lowers interest rates via Jerome Powell's opinion or the board's opinion or Donald's opinion or Sam Bushman, myself's opinion. It doesn't matter. Nobody has the right to manipulate money. So you create monopoly money and then you manipulate everything with the borrowing and use of money and the payback of money. And then you want to argue about whether they built a building, whether they lied on the stand about the details of the building, of cost overruns, or whether you want to debate who gets control to raise interest rates or lower them. Why don't we have Mickey Mouse lower interest rates and Donald Duck raise them? And then if they have a big old fight, we can get Jesse Ventura in there, the big wrestling champ, to mediate. I mean, I'm just saying it's clown stuff, people. The only real answer is to get rid of the Federal Reserve entirely and go back to constitutional, honest money based on the supreme law of our land. And nobody's talking about that except for me and Ron Paul and, some good, honest money people. But the question is, do we have a debt-based economy and are we going to just live with that and pretend it's going to get better or worse under the lie of a debt-based economy? Everything is debt. Or do we want to double down on an asset-based economy where anything that is valuable has intrinsic value and or has trade value for intrinsic? In other words, value isn't made out of nothing. Value is made with hard work, sweat, tears, blood, all that. And you can't create something for nothing. But that's what the Fed's done. It's like magic money. They just create it and tell you it exists. Hey, here's a $100 bill. No worries. We printed it for like 13 cents. Now we're claiming it's worth $100. First big old absolute propaganda-based lie. Then they go, on top of that, we're going to charge you interest because there's no other place you can get money. Well, you'll never be able to pay that $100 back if you have interest on top of it. If there's only one place to get money, you owe $100 and $105 because of the interest, whatever the interest represents. And you go, how are you going to pay it back? There's only one place for money. Even if you give the $100 bill back, you still owe $5 in fraudulent money now, right? I mean, I'm telling you, these people are dishonest. And Trump, I appreciate at least that he's trying to lower interest rates. I mean, that's good. But where do interest rates really belong? When the Federal Reserve creates absolute money out of thin air, and then they create all kinds of instruments of trade and manipulation and this and that, I mean, it just never ends. For example, the stock market goes up, they let it go up. Stock market goes down, the plunge protection team stops it from falling. Thus, you get this arbitrary, if something's too big to fail, we won't let it fail. Therefore, the government and the taxpayers are on the hook. They've highlighted with Doge a lot of waste, but they haven't got even to the beginning of it. Forget the Somalis in Minnesota. Forget the waste that we experience with the Federal Reserve spending money out to oblivion. Forget the waste that all these government programs, sent overseas and everywhere else. Forget all that. It's peanuts. The real fraud is in the Federal Reserve, creating money out of thin air, lying about its value, creating a monopoly money where you can't get money where else, and then we're going to argue over these clown show details. Well, Donald, my hair's better than yours is. No way, my hair's the best. My hair, I've been known for my hair. I've been in cameos because of my hair and my, forget it. Don't care. Don't care at all. Why don't we get back to things that matter the most? If we went on a constitutional standard of money, we wouldn't be debating how much Congress is going to spend because there'd be a limit to how much they can spend. There's no authority for the general government to borrow any money, is there? So, see, we're being punked, to say the least. All right, there's a rare doomsday plane. Do you know about this? There's a doomsday plane that was spotted over L.A., and it sparks online alarm. This is kind of interesting. Viral footage of America's nuclear command aircraft landing in Los Angeles has now fueled fears of a looming crisis. Officials claim the flight was routine, but the secrecy surrounding the mission continues to fuel and raise public concern. I don't know what's up with that plane. I don't want to get all speculative about it or anything else, but it's very weird. You don't see that plane flying around. Why did it land in L.A.? Everybody's wondering. Well, here's the sad part. When governors around the country and when President Trump and everybody else, the FBI, the Justice Department, Pam Bondi, Patel, everybody tells you there's nothing to the Epstein files, that there's no list of who he worked with, that there's no evidence or information, and then they tell you, hey, this doomsday plane over L.A. is just a routine thing. Do you buy it? When they lied about UFOs, I mean, the government's literally lied about everything in the last 50, 100 years. Many people don't think we're getting to the bottom of the Charlie Kirk situation. Many of us don't believe we ever got the real answers on JFK. Many people don't believe we got the answers on Barack Hussein's birth certificate. I'm not a birther, don't care where he was born, but I know the birth certificate was fraud. It was proven so by Joe Arpaio, sheriff, who investigated it, tried to turn it over to the DEA or to any attorney generals, and they just laughed at him and mocked it in the press and did nothing. Trust in government is eroding at an alarming rate. We've got to restore that trust. Just saying. All right, final segment left. I want to talk about Trump wants to cap credit card interest rates. We'll talk about that in seconds.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So Donald Trump wants to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. And a lot of people are going to be applauding this. They're going to be going, yeah, especially if you have a bunch of credit card debt that you're paying at a high interest rate. I understand this, but really my question is, where does the President of the United States of America get authority to cap interest rates, to control this? You know, on one hand, we say the general interest rate is controlled by the Fed, but hey, Trump wants to basically control the interest rates of credit cards. See, I don't want anybody controlling the interest rates of credit cards. Here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see these banks operate in the free market. And the better interest rate you give people, the people will flock to it. The worse the interest rate gets, the more people will leave that company. Now, I also get that banks need to preserve themselves. Government doesn't worry about risk-reward analysis because government believes they can borrow any money at any amount they want to, whenever they want to. They can go ahead and take the place of any moral hazard and make the taxpayers be on the hook for whatever they focus on. And so government doesn't have that natural respect for a risk-reward analysis. If a bank is forced to be private or go out of business, kind of a thing, And if people use constitutional currency, we wouldn't be worried about credit cards going bust. People would either have prepaid credit cards or they would have appropriate credit limits based on the risk. And naturally, businesses, private sector folks have respect for this line. They understand there's both sides to that equation. Yeah, we want to lend money and grow. Yeah, we want to make interest, but we got to be careful of the risks. Some people are better risks than others. One, they have more stable jobs. Two, they have resources. You know, it's kind of like the old farmer taught me when I was a kid learning to buy real estate. He says, Sam, what you do is this. You make sure they put 20% down, because I'm telling you, if they can come up with 20%, it shows they've learned how to save. It shows they've learned how to manage money. It shows they've learned that when they put that much down, they're not going to lose it. It's rare once you put 20% down on something that they ever lose it, because they've shown they can fight and scratch and kick and do whatever it takes to get what it takes to not lose, to not fail. And so get 20% down, Sam. That's what this farmer taught me, or this rancher guy taught me. Great advice I've never forgotten. But again, what we want to do is just lend people even their down payment. And see, that's where government just doesn't understand moral hazard. They don't understand the relationship between supply and demand, between risk and reward, and all that goes away when the taxpayers can take care of everything. Look at the vaccine folks. They don't need to make their vaccines safe and effective. Who cares? The government will just pay if they fail. If things go south, the government's on the hook, not them. That was something Ronald Reagan put together in 1986. It was a disgrace. Why do I say he put it together? Because he's the one that signed it into law. He could have rejected it and said, I won't sign it, but he didn't. This is what I'm talking about. By the way, this is disgusting, says the headline. The same professional protester has been allegedly found at nearly 100 different protests. Joe Kovacs over at WorldNet Daily, my dear friend, WND.com, wrote this piece. And it's serious. So they found this same protester. I can't remember her name right now. But anyway, she's in video after video after video after video, basically agitating and provoking and all these different things. We've told you these protesters are paid for. We've told you these organizations ran a riot and stuff like that exist. And I don't understand why it's not being stopped. I appreciate Tom Homan working on getting rid of the illegal criminals in our society. Everyone should care about that. All law-abiding citizens, and even good people that might be here illegally that aren't criminals or don't mean to be criminals. Even they want the bad guys stopped. Everyone suffers when bad guys rage in a society. So I appreciate Tom Homan doing that, but I want to focus on this. What about all these protesters that are being bussed around the country? Right? What about all that? And so it's very interesting, but I bring it up because we see these protesters getting paid. We see rent-a-riots and everything else promoted. Why aren't these considered terrorist organizations, these rent-a-riots? These we can promote your agenda, and they get hostile and they get that. Who's funding all that? Who's organizing all that? How come with all the different scandals that we've had, Charlottesville, Seattle turning into Chaz, the shooting in Portland, the event that we just had in Seattle where we were at, in Puyallup, where the protesters showed up, where protesters are showing up all around the country based on the shooting that took place in Minnesota and the other shooting that took place in Portland, and they're going after, and we've got these provocateurs, ladies and gentlemen, and these provocateurs are causing big, big problems. I don't understand why we haven't really found out who's funding them, who's organizing and training them. So the headline says Renee Good, this lady that got shot, a 37-year-old, she's a member of an ICE Watch activist network. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, she was shot and killed by ICE during a confrontation. The DHS labeled the incident as an act of domestic terrorism, stating Good used her vehicle as a weapon against the agents. She had received specific training from the activist network on how to interact with ICE agents. Good actually moved to Minneapolis from Kansas City, Missouri. I guess they say she's survived by her 3 children and her lesbian lover, Rebecca. Now, they want you to say wife, but I'm not going there. I don't believe it's real marriage. The area near the shooting site, believe it or not, was close to George Floyd Square. And it remains a volatile zone with anti-government sentiment everywhere. Federal authorities are now investigating the origins of the training and the funding of ICE watch groups. These groups have, quote, surged in activity across the country, and there's been a 3,200% in car ramming attacks against ICE and DHS agents during the second Trump administration. Now, I bring this up because what on earth is going on? Why are we just starting to investigate this stuff? We've had these riots going on for a long time, right? If you want to talk about J6, you can. If you want to talk about Charlottesville, you can. If you want to talk about Chaz, you can. If you want to talk about what happened about George Floyd and all those riots and everything else. Who's behind all this? How come in the second Trump administration, Trump has had 5 years in office now? It's January 13th, so he's got one more week, and he's got 5 years. 4 years the first time, 1 year the second time. And we don't have a clue who's behind all this, who's funding it. We're not prosecuting anybody. Where is the FBI? Where is the Justice Department? They're certainly derelict in their duty for sure. Anyway, it's shocking to me. It's just shocking that we don't have any more on this. All right, and then this same professional is at over 100 protests. What about what happened in Atlanta, Georgia? Remember where they were throwing rocks and bottles and everything else because they wanted to create this law enforcement peace officer training facility? A lot of people got arrested. Even the Southern Poverty Law Center attorney got arrested and thrown in the clink. Okay, what about that? See, we have all kinds of information, but nothing's been done. Congress is derelict in their duty. The Justice Department is missing in action. And the FBI, I don't even know what they're doing. Except what are they doing? Building a new big building too or what? It's a disgrace, people. An absolute disgrace. All right, the FBI chooses Christopher Rea to replace Dan Bongino as co-deputy director of the FBI. So there you have it. That's who the replacement is. I don't know anything about Christopher Rea. R-A-I-A, Rea, Christopher Rea. I don't even know who that is. But I'm telling you, pretty soon Trump will be like, I don't know why Christopher's there. Christopher's an idiot. Well, who put him there is what I want to know. Dan Bongino, as you know, former FBI deputy director, announced on X that his new show will debut on February the 2nd, streaming live weekdays from 10 to noon Eastern time on Rumble. The upcoming Dan Bongino show aims to offer insights from his government experience and perspective on the conservative movement. Interesting, huh? They say he'll highlight themes of hope and resilience. I like that. Good for him. It's set to air after the, how do you say it, Vince Coglioli's show? Anyway, he's an editorial director at the Daily Caller. Dan Bongino's new media platform is called, what is it called? Silverlock? Yeah, Silverlock. With an H. So it's Silverlock, L-O-C-H. And they say it will distribute the show. Bongino, as everybody knows, is a former U.S. Secret Service agent. He was with the NYPD officer. He's also been well known for TV and radio programs and everything else. I think Dan's a good guy. The fact that he walked and said, I just can't take this crap anymore, it's bogus, in my opinion, really, really tells the tale. Folks, we've got to understand government is corrupt at all levels. And I think Trump's done a lot of good to stop a lot of that corruption and money spending and waste. But it's such a target-rich environment that even Donald Trump can't get that done. I'm afraid the swamp is about swamped Donald for the second time. He needs to make sure that he has good people around him. And I don't believe Susan Wiles and some of the people around Donald Trump, Pam Bondi and others, are the people that should be around him. If you want to make your next 3 years count, Donald, you got to get good, honest, wise servants of the Republic around you. Yeah, that's what you got to do. Just giving you my humble advice. I am a self-appointed Trump advisor, after all. Thanks for being alongside for the ride. I'm Sam Bushman. We are syndicated by the Loving Liberty Networks, lovingliberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, donate today. Every penny counts to help us stay on the air, people. We need your support. God save the Republic of the United States of America.